pulled up. Should the Jets make a trade for Ayuk? This guy's apparently on his way out. He does, or it doesn't seem like he's looking to stay with the 49ers. He's got his girlfriend saying, "Oh, this could be the last time we set foot on this field." And then his brother saying, "This is why we're not going to be here next year." And then he's doing an interview at the, in front of his locker where he's like crying and he's not really sure if he's going to be here. And he's just like, "Oh, I want to be a champion," or something along those lines. So I guess, Matt, I'll throw it to you first. Brandon Ayuk, potentially on the trade block. Would you try to make a move for the wide receiver?
If you can get him for a 2025 first and not this year's first, then I would say yes. Assuming that he's signing a contract extension too. Like, that's got to be a part of it. You're not doing it for a rental. But at the same time, I'm not giving up pick 10 for him because they have way too many needs. I don't think they're going to be able to fill out just, fixing the offensive line through free agency. I think they're going to need that 10th pick in order to completely overhaul that unit. So I don't love the idea of giving up pick 10, but if you're making that kind of a trade and they would take a 2025 first, you're hoping that is pick number 32. And pick 32 is a lot different than giving up a top 10 pick. And you could structure the contract where, his cap hit and a lot of money is in the first 2 to 3 years of that new deal. And then that coincides when Garrett's new contract would be kicking in because Garrett has, 3 more years on his current deal. So I think that would be the way to go about it. I don't think Joe Douglas does it. I don't think the Jets actually pull the trigger on it, but that is absolutely a name that I would be in on, a soon to be 26-year-old wide receiver coming off a 1,300-yard season. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fascinating wide receiver and I feel like the Jets are going to be a little bit of a tough spot to land a free agent wide receiver. So I'm in on the whole trade side of things. Ayuk is up there on my list. Courtland Sutton I've talked about up there on my list. That's where I think you're going to get some of the better caliber wide receivers as opposed to trying to bid for them in the free agent market. Another thing we could possibly talk about is maybe trading. I like your idea of giving up the 2025 pick. For sure. And maybe you tie it to some sort of production stat. So that way you protect yourself in the event Rodgers goes down and then Ayuk doesn't hit, certain milestones or something like that. But maybe they flip the number 10 pick for number 31. That's the average of basically the 26th overall pick. If you like how deep this tackle class is and you feel like you can get a starting caliber tackle at that point, maybe that's something you kind of consider as an alternative option. Green Bean, where do you stand on Brandon Ayuk? Would you want the Jets to maybe explore a trade for him?
Yeah, well, I think it would be fantastic. Imagine Garrett Wilson and Brandon Ayuk together on the field. That was an interesting one. I actually said it a couple times, and look, it could just be Brock Purdy, in the big moment, not being able to kind of see guys. He was under pressure a lot, but I was saying that look, man, you guys got Debo, Ayuk, you got Kittle, McCaffrey, all these guys. And it seemed like none of them were being utilized, not enough, right? I wanted to see more Kittle. I wanted to see more Ayuk. But it was definitely glaring that he wasn't being used. One thing I'll say is that, the emotions are high. He's crying and everything and everybody's pissed. And so we don't know where this really lands. The smoke could settle in 3 days and they go, yeah, I don't know. I was just upset. You know how it is. I break up, you break up with girlfriends and you go, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm sorry. I was in a bad mood. But also, if he wants to be a champion, where better to come than the Jets, huh? I mean, we've shown we have a pretty hard straight line to the championship, so why not come over here with this team? We're built, baby. But I would love it, and I like the idea. I mean, I agree. I would not want to give up this year's first. It's just too. We need the tackle. It's a strong tackle class. I want the tackle. The flip, I think that's a little far in order to get what we want to get done. I don't know if I feel that good about who's going to be sitting there at that point, being able to come in and immediately contribute and be that kind of, that stabilizing force on the left or right side of the line. I don't know if that's makes me a little nervous, but it's interesting. I think the 2025 thing, we were talking about it. It's kind of my subject this week. Is it time to take a little bit of the future assets and go all in right now? Like what he was saying, he said, it's now, it's now. That's how he talks. He's now or never, baby. That's how Woody sounds. Well, he said, I was as mad as I've ever been, that kind of thing. So maybe, we could do that. Take 2025 first and get Brandon Ayuk, like you say, get an extension. We still have 10. You trade back, you get a second, you get Fuanga, and you get. We did in the 10 o'clock mock last night. We got Graham Barton in the second to move to the interior, and it was there's a lot of options if you do it that way. But you could absolutely misplay this, and I wouldn't want to put all of our eggs in the Brandon Ayuk basket, but I'd love to bring him aboard. He's an exciting player.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the other players that were not utilized as much. The pressure that was getting on Brock Purdy last night was absolutely incredible, and I would almost argue that Chris Jones was the MVP of that game. Like, I think he was the reason why they were. I mean, you look at the last play of the game, the wide open for a touchdown for the 49ers, and he blew through someone on the offensive line, the right guard, I think, blew a block. He comes screaming through. Purdy's got no time. They got to kick the field goal then. And look, it's just a very interesting way to see it all go down. But as far as Ayuk goes, I definitely lean on the same. I'm on the same wavelength as you guys. I don't want to give up number 10. I think it's too valuable. I would rather trade down and get 2 controllable young assets, or take our top offensive tackle, weapon, whatever you want at number 10. I do think it starts getting a little interesting if you say, oh, we'll give up a second and a conditional pick next year or something along those lines, if the Jets were somehow able to make that work. But I like Matt's idea of the 2025 pick more than anything, I think. So yeah, you guys can let us know in the chat what you think about Brandon Ayuk.